What a incredible, unbelievable, crazy, wild, extraordinary, historic, scandalous, absurd, satire-worthy. What an unbelievable day all around. I am in complete and utter, I feel like I was testifying all day. I didn't watch the entirety because I had to go do my own television show. But man, let's dive in. I did one earlier on Christine Ford's testimony. You can go watch that. It's pinned at the top of my Twitter page right now. It's pinned up at the top of my Facebook page. So much to get to out of that testimony. I am blown away in general by the day that we just saw. All right, by the way, my name is Clay Travis. I do a little something called Outkick the Show. I do it reacting to everything in the world. Sports, politics, pop culture. We did this for Game of Thrones. We do it for big sporting events. We do it every day. I do it for this. I gotta say, his opening statement. First of all, let me take a step back. Christine Ford and Judge Kavanagh, I believe, were their best possible witnesses, each of them. I believe, if you ask me point blank, Clay Travis, you were on a jury, what happened? I believe she believes she was assaulted, and I believe she believes she was assaulted by Judge Kavanagh. I think the most likely outcome, I also believe Judge Kavanagh and all of the evidence in this case, that he had nothing to do with it. I think somewhere along the line, she has likely confused him with somebody else. But let me say this off the jump. Lindsey fucking Graham dunked on everybody from the rafters. Do you remember when LeBron James dunked in that game? And I think it was Kevin Harlan said, "From the mezzanine, LeBron James from the mezzanine." Lindsey Graham, this old dude from South Carolina, came in and just caught the ball off the rim and double cocked it. He may have done a 360 and he fucking dunked it. And I think that he got Kavanaugh on the Supreme Court. I think that is the moment that is going to live from here with no regard for human life indeed. I didn't have any opinion about Lindsey Graham at all prior to watching that hearing. I think he should be the next president of the United States after watching that hearing. I thought it was an unbelievable, epic mic drop, extraordinary moment that I hope, I mean this honestly, I have been hoping for our own modern day McCarthy moment. I hope that that was a modern day McCarthy moment. Because I got to tell y'all something. Having grown adults going through a high school yearbook and questioning people who are sitting for the Supreme Court about what they said in their high school fucking yearbooks is to me beyond the pale of absurdity. All right? I don't care whether you're a Democrat, whether you're a Republican, whether you are an independent. The idea that grown elected officials are looking through high school yearbooks, it's got me thinking, what the hell did I write in people's yearbooks? What did they write in mine when I was 15 and 16 years old? This is an utter charade that I think everybody should be embarrassed by. Look, I am 100 billion% against the politics of personal destruction. If you disagree with somebody, and by the way, I don't think just Republicans or just Democrats have been guilty of this. I'm consistent. If you go back and look at my history, I worked in a Democratic congressman's office during the Bill Clinton impeachment trial. And do you know what I said? I don't care who Bill Clinton sleeps with. I care whether he's a good president. I don't care who Donald Trump sleeps with. I care whether he's a good president. I don't care about alleged misbehavior of a 17-year-old that is not corroborated by any evidence whatsoever. This is a she said versus a he said, he said, he said, she said. There are 4 people under oath who have said under penalty of perjury that her story is not true. If you are sitting on a jury and you hear 4 people testify one thing and another person testify the other side, which side are you likely to come down on? I don't think she's a bad person. I don't think she's a liar. I don't think she is doing this entirely for political gain. But I think she's mistaken. I think she's wrong. I think she's put her family through hell because the Democrats leaked this and put her through hell. That's the story here. Sometimes you have to look behind the story. This is not about Brett Kavanaugh. This is not about Christine Ford. This is about using them as political pawns to fight a battle, which I think is about whether abortion is going to be legal or not. Now look, I'm pro-choice. I think the dumbest thing the Supreme Court could do is overturn Roe v. Wade. All right? I don't think abortion is a good thing to talk about. I don't think it's an ideal situation, but my position is straightforward. If I had a 14 or 15-year-old daughter and she got pregnant, I think it's insane that the law would make her deliver that baby. I understand that some of you disagree with me, okay? I think that Judge Kavanaugh might well disagree with me. But as a lawyer, the fact that this is how we are now selecting Supreme Court justices is insane to me. This is everything that's wrong with America right now. This is Judge Kavanaugh, who is eminently qualified, beyond a shadow of a doubt, to be a Supreme Court justice. He is thoroughly in the mainstream for Republican Senate nomination and also for Republican presidential selection. You can rip Donald Trump to the high heavens for many decisions that he has made. The decision that he made with Gorsuch, or however you pronounce his name, and the decision that he made with Kavanaugh is eminently defensible. What you need to do is strip everything back and say what is really going on right here. What is going on here is very straightforward. This is an attempt by Democrats to complete a Hail Mary pass. Now, to be fair, last election cycle, the Republicans and Mitch McConnell completed a Hail Mary pass. They Aaron Rodgers, that son of a bitch, threw it all the way down the field and got a Hail Mary completion, which was Donald Trump's election. And as a result, they got the opportunity to put the Supreme Court in play with a Republican president. That's why many conservatives ended up voting for Donald Trump. You might not like the way that Merrick Garland was treated, but Mitch McConnell said the 2016 election will be a referendum on who gets to replace Antonin Scalia. And Donald Trump somehow pulled out this win. That's on Democrats for not supporting Hillary Clinton, for losing Michigan, for losing Ohio, for losing Pennsylvania, for losing Florida, for losing Wisconsin. That's all 100% their fault. The result of that is when openings arise, then Republicans get to fill them. The reason why Justice Anthony Kennedy stepped down right now, is for a simple reason. Because he knew that a Republican was going to get to replace him. He didn't die. He didn't become incapacitated. He made the decision to leave. All right. So what is being argued here is a Democratic attempt for a Hail Mary. They don't want an FBI investigation. They want more time to ensue so that they can push this past the midterm election. Now, let me explain why I think that's a bad idea and doesn't even make sense. If this actually works, it's going to cost the Republicans even more Senate seats than they already are going to lose. Right now, the Democrats may well win the House. They may take over the Speaker's chair. But right now, the Republicans are likely to pick up Senate seats, and that's without all the toss-ups moving in their direction. If they don't confirm Kavanaugh, Missouri, gone. Tennessee, gone. North Dakota, gone. Florida, gone. West Virginia, gone. All of these states that Donald Trump won are going to elect Republican senators. I'm telling you this because this is bad strategy by the Democrats. They don't need to actually forestall this because Donald Trump is going to return after the midterms if they don't confirm Kavanaugh even stronger. The best thing that could happen, honestly, for Republicans is for Kavanaugh to get voted down because everybody then is going to show up in all those states that Donald Trump already won, energized and inflamed and furious to vote for their senator to be a Republican. They're not going to win Missouri, the Democrats. They're not going to win Tennessee. I'm in Tennessee right now. Phil Bredesen has a 0% chance of winning this election if Kavanaugh gets voted down. Because immediately Marsha Blackburn is going to bring in Donald Trump, and this entire campaign is going to turn into a referendum on whether the Republicans should get to pick the next Supreme Court justice. That nationalizes a local election. That takes Phil Bredesen out of running. It kills Claire McCaskill in Missouri, Heidi Heitkamp, or however you pronounce her name, in North Dakota. It kills the red state Democrats in West Virginia. Joe Manchin is done. Florida probably kills Bill Nelson. All of that is going to work in Republicans' favor. This right now, I'm telling you, is what it's really about. It's not about getting to the truth. And I think this is important. It's not about getting to the truth because the Senate Judiciary Committee has to decide everything anyway. All the FBI does is give them the information that would have come from them interviewing Brett Kavanaugh. Instead of the FBI doing it and turning over an interview to the Senate Judiciary, as Joe Biden said, this is the better option. You could actually ask every question you wanted of Brett Kavanaugh and of the woman alleging, Miss Dr. Ford, that he had attacked her. You had the opportunity directly, instead of deputizing the FBI to write a report and then review it. And I know because I have done these kind of investigations. It doesn't make any sense as it's presently constituted for the FBI to make a decision. You either vote for Brett Kavanaugh or you don't. Now, this is a very real question, and I think it's a big one. Does an unsubstantiated and unsourced and uncorroborated allegation from 36 years ago have the authority to derail someone from sitting on the Supreme Court? If you believe that that is true, then you have just opened up Pandora's box. Because all it will take is somebody from anybody's background to come out every time you have a prominent person, and we'll see these yearbook examinations happening over and over and over again. I have got a crazy idea. I don't like the politics of personal destruction. If you do not like Brett Kavanaugh because of his Supreme Court rulings you believe he will make, that is fine. You have the right to vote against him. But the idea that you would vote against a guy who is 53 years old because of something that was in his high school yearbook is patently absurd to me. The idea that you would vote against someone 36 years after an allegation which has been refuted by everybody else named in the story. Again, we got a she said, and then we got a he said, she said, all saying this person's story is not true. Which do you believe? The 4 people who, under penalty of felony, have told their stories and said she's not telling the truth, including her best friend, or Brett Kavanaugh's side? I don't think this is a difficult situation, not to mention all of the calendar and everything else. I thought Kavanaugh was justifiably angry. I thought he was infinitely more passionate than I thought a lawyer would be. I think he has rallied his base, and I believe that he is going to be confirmed as the next senator by the Senate Judiciary Committee as the next Supreme Court justice. That's what I believe. I don't think we need to incentivize stories like these either. Christine Ford had the opportunity to come forward and tell her story. As was proven over and over and over again, they could have done this without a public hearing. Somebody in Dianne Feinstein's office or in that congresswoman's office at the last moment when they realized that this was going to happen, that he was going to be confirmed, decided to publicly leak a story that she did not want to be publicly leaked. They decided to go public with this story. They could have had this all internal. They could have had this discussion. They could have had this debate internal, and it would have never blown up into the massive story that it's become. The Democrats were desperate. They recognized that Kavanaugh was going to be confirmed, and so they went to a dirty playbook. Again, I come back again and again to Dianne Feinstein knowing about this allegation, sitting and talking face-to-face with Brett Kavanaugh, never raising it with him, never raising it with the FBI, never asking them to investigate, and then as soon as this happens, you roll in and you make that argument. It just doesn't add up to me. I'm a facts guy. The facts of this case are as follows. Christine Ford, while she may be a very nice person, great witness, might be an excellent professor, doesn't know the year, the date, the house, how she got to the house, who else was there. And yet we expect her to believe, that she knows all of these details from inside of that room. Again, let me reiterate. She doesn't know how she got to the house. She doesn't know who was there. She doesn't know when it was. She doesn't even know what year it was. She doesn't know how she got home. She never told anyone about it for over 25 years. And now suddenly, 36 years later, she's certain that Brett Kavanaugh was the person who attacked her. Let me tell you this too. I think she believes it. I think in her head she believes it, but there's a reason that polygraph examinations are not admissible, as Brett Kavanaugh said, in federal court. It's because they're frequently very inaccurate. It's also because, and this is important, if you believe something that is untrue, you would pass a polygraph test. For instance, I believe that I saw a ghost 3 years ago. I wrote about it on Outkick. If you strap me up to a polygraph machine, I believe I would pass the polygraph test saying that I saw a ghost. That doesn't mean that ghosts are real. That means that I believe I saw a ghost. I would pass the polygraph test. That doesn't mean that my story is true. Do you understand the distinction there? Just because you pass a polygraph doesn't mean that the story you're telling is true. It means that you believe the story that you're telling. And that's even if the polygraph is accurate. There's a big distinction that most people miss there. Again, a polygraph does not speak to the truth of the event having occurred. It speaks to your belief that the truth of the event you are referring to actually happened. That's why my ghost example is a good one. Me going and taking a polygraph and saying, yeah, I believe I saw a ghost, doesn't prove the existence of ghosts. It proves that I believe I saw a ghost. Christine Ford passing a polygraph test doesn't prove that Brett Kavanaugh sexually assaulted her. It proves that she believes Brett Kavanaugh sexually assaulted her. That's a big difference. She can believe something that is fundamentally untrue. If you put Kyrie Irving on a polygraph machine, he might well say the earth is flat. I believe the earth is flat. He might well believe the earth is flat. The evidence does not support that the earth is actually flat. All a polygraph machine does is confirm you believe the veracity of what you are saying, and that's only if the polygraph is actually accurate. The reason why you can't admit polygraph evidence as evidence in federal court is because it is so often not accurate. So that's an important distinction to make as well. Now, I thought the Republican decision to have the Miss Mitchell woman ask questions of Dr. Ford was a disaster. I thought that as a result, Dr. Ford won the morning. But much like a team that's getting its butt whipped and goes into halftime and makes some adjustments, I thought that the Republicans came out and absolutely dominated the second half of this confirmation hearing. And I thought that started with an incredibly compelling statement from Judge Kavanaugh that he read. I thought it was basically climaxed when Lindsey Graham came down from the rafters and dunked on everybody with no regard for human life. And I thought it was culminated in the way that the Democrats ultimately were unable to actually poke any holes in what Judge Kavanaugh said. So I think the question ultimately comes down to this. Take politics out of it. If you were sitting on a jury and there were 4 witnesses who said something happened and 1 witness said that something else happened, would you be more inclined to believe the 4 people who said one story either did or didn't happen, or the 1? Particularly, again, if the woman says, I don't know the year, I don't know the place, I don't know the date, I don't know how I got home, I don't know how I got there. This is a very flimsy allegation. She can believe it, but this is beyond a shadow of a doubt not a very compelling or corroborative story. None of the evidence supports her. So, I think this is a bad look for America. I think this is what Donald Trump has driven people to. I think Donald Trump has inspired so many people to lose their minds that the Democrats are now behaving as crazily as Donald Trump. And I think social media is a big reason why. I have said from looking at this evidence from the get-go, sometimes I believe men, sometimes I believe women. For those of you who watch this show regularly, I believed Courtney Smith in the Ohio State case. I believed the woman who accused Jameis Winston of rape. I did not believe the Peyton Manning mooning incident, and I also did not believe the Duke lacrosse case or the Ezekiel Elliott allegations. I think if you break this down, the evidence does not work in favor of Christine Ford. It actually is all on the side of Judge Kavanaugh. Now, if you want to adopt the standard that if anybody in your past, maybe someone that you have never even met, wants to allege that you have ever behaved inappropriately, including 36 years ago, if they want to allege that that disqualifies you from being a Supreme Court justice, I think that's crazy. If they want to allege that if you drank a lot when you were in high school or college, that disqualifies you from being a Supreme Court justice, I think that is crazy. If you want to allege in any way that that is the standard, I don't think that anybody I ever went to law school with could ever sit on the Supreme Court. And I went to law school at Vanderbilt with a lot of brilliant people, but I've seen them all drink a lot. And I've seen them all get out on the dance floor. And I'm telling you right now, if the standard is, did you ever drink to excess? It's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. And there's no evidence whatsoever to support this. That's what's going to happen with every famous person who tries to get a job going forward. Every single time, somebody is going to come forward. Here's my other thing. You can't believe someone because you believe in their worldview. This is incredibly important in this day and age. Okay? You cannot believe someone because of their race or because of their gender, because that is racism and that is sexism. Just because you believe that women sometimes don't come forward because they have been sexually assaulted and they're afraid that people won't believe them, does not mean that you have to believe every single woman who comes forward. That's not logical. Sometimes women lie about things that were done to them, i.e. Duke Lacrosse. Sometimes, as in this case, a woman can be wrong about a story. That's what I believe the evidence supports. Justice does not allow us to only decide who is right or wrong based on their identity. That is fundamentally the exact opposite of justice. Now, do I readily admit that the justice system has often been wrong in the past? Yes. Justice in America has long been imperfect because it is run by humans who are imperfect. That's why I don't support the death penalty, because I believe that sometimes we put people in prison and maybe even have killed someone for a crime they didn't commit. I think the death penalty requires a degree of certitude that our criminal justice system does not present. That's why I'm anti the death penalty. Okay? Some people disagree with me on that. That's fine. Brett Kavanaugh probably disagrees with me on that. If I were sitting on the Supreme Court, I would not allow the death penalty to exist. I would vote against it. I would allow Roe v. Wade to stand. I would be fine with gay marriage. Justice Kavanaugh may disagree with me on all of those things, but if I were a senator, based on what I saw today, I would vote to confirm him because I don't believe it's been proven that he did anything wrong. And I think not voting to confirm him sets an awful precedent in the years, months, decades ahead of our country, because I think what goes around will come around. And whatever Democrats did to Judge Kavanaugh, Republicans are going to do to whoever the next Democratic president is who nominates someone. I also think this. Be careful what you wish for. Because I think that if Donald Trump doesn't get Kavanaugh on the Supreme Court, he's going to come back with Amy Coney Barrett, who is much more conservative and is a woman. And I think he's going to troll the Democrats and say, I decided to listen to the Democrats and make sure that we had more women on the Supreme Court. And there's no way they're going to stop her from getting seated. Because again, in November, a red wave will rise in all of those Senate seats where there's a tough decision to be made right now. I'm going to tell you right now, I live in Tennessee. I would be comfortable voting for Phil Bredesen. I like Phil Bredesen. He's a great governor. If voting for Phil Bredesen means I am endorsing what I just saw the Democrats do on this hearing, I will not vote for Phil Bredesen. That's a vote directly in my life that will go to Marsha Blackburn because I disapprove of the way the Democrats just behaved in those Senate races. If people like me who are moderate, very middle of the road, are willing to change their vote based on what they just saw, think about how many people in Missouri, Montana, Florida, West Virginia, Indiana, all of these states that Donald Trump won, where there are basically 50-50 elections going on, people will flip. People will flip and there will be even more Republican senators there, and it will be an even easier confirmation battle, and the Republicans will pick someone even more conservative. I'm just telling you that's what's going to transpire based on what I just saw here. All right, what questions additionally do you have? The other thing I would say is, if you believe that Brett Kavanaugh is not qualified to sit on the Supreme Court for life, he's already got life tenure. He's on the D.C. circuit already for the rest of his life. I don't understand the distinction here where you're saying we're okay with him being one of the 20 most powerful judges in the world, but we're not okay with him being one of the 9 most powerful judges in the world. The logic doesn't add up. He's already been confirmed by the Senate. He still has lifetime tenure on the D.C. circuit. It's not like this guy isn't already a federal employee. He will continue to work on the federal circuit, and most of the D.C. circuit's opinions are not reviewed ever by the Supreme Court. So the D.C. circuit decisions that he makes, the vast majority of them become the law of the land because it's rare that the Supreme Court takes a case from the D.C. circuit. So the logic doesn't even add up here. Yes, I practice law. Man. So I'm speaking from the perspective of a lawyer, someone who went to law school, and actually, unlike the vast majority of people on social media, understands the issues at play here from a legal perspective. I think it's a shameful precedent. I think it needs to not be followed. I also think these allegations are so insanely absurd. Gang rape, running trains on people, Michael Avenatti should be ashamed of himself. Absolutely ashamed. These are the bottom of the barrel allegations. Finally, even if you accept 100% of her allegation as true, we need to distinguish between what a real sexual assault is and what sounds to me like an awkward, at best, high school attempt to make out. I don't believe this case would have been prosecuted in 1982. There was no nudity. There was no penetration. Hate to get graphic here, but that is the culmination of oftentimes when you decide whether or not to prosecute a case. This case would not have been prosecuted in 1982. I also don't believe it would be prosecuted in 2018. But if it had been, he would not have been prosecuted as an adult. He would have been prosecuted as a juvenile, which means this entire case would have been destroyed. Okay, this is important. We believe, and certainly I believe as a country, that crimes that you commit when you are young, or the decisions that you made that were bad when you were in your youth, are not supposed to follow you into adulthood. In other words, and this is significant, that case file would be destroyed. The irony here to me is pretty massive, that the Democrats in this case are arguing we want what this guy did when he was 17 to follow him all the way till he's 53, while simultaneously arguing in that same Senate Judiciary Committee that felons who have lost their voting rights should get their voting rights back when they become out of prison because they can be redeemed. I believe in an America where you aren't defined by yourself at 15, 16, 17, or 18 years old. I believe that you can make better decisions as you age. I believe that you can become smarter. I believe that your knowledge base can become more expansive. I want to judge a judge based on his 12-year record as a judge, not based on what he wrote in a high school yearbook when he was 16 or 17 years old. Because what you are arguing is otherwise, that nothing changes and that we are all fixed and that we are the same people we were in high school forevermore. Further, and finally perhaps, I think it is insanely crazy that we have reached an era where evidence is being put forward that proves beyond a shadow of a doubt that nothing happened here, according to 4 different witnesses. And yet, because one person disagrees, that means some people are willing to say it's a disqualifying standard. That means in the future, when somebody runs for the Senate, or somebody runs for president, or somebody tries to become a Supreme Court justice, that if one person comes out and alleges misconduct, that person is not qualified to get that job, even if all of the corroborating evidence does not support that allegation. It's unbelievable. It's patently absurd to me, questions that you get from anybody out there. 3 witnesses. She said, he said, he said, he said, she said, all say it didn't happen. There was nobody there. This party never happened. Lots to get to. I appreciate all of you. I think this is insanity, and that's my position on it. You can go watch my analysis of Christine Ford. Seems like a nice person. Just because you're a nice person doesn't mean that you're always telling the truth. And eyewitness testimony, as I said last time, is sometimes the least reliable, oftentimes proven to be the least reliable of all testimonies. There are lots of people who've been sentenced on death row because eyewitness testimony was later proven to be 100% wrong. All right, I love all of you. Lindsey Graham from the top rope. I think that's the moment that I'll remember the most from the entire day's worth of hearings. If I were a senator, I would vote to confirm. That's the standard that I would put forward. It's the same standard that I said when I wouldn't impeach Bill Clinton. It's the same standard that I said when I would not or don't care about Donald Trump's past misdeeds with women. I don't believe there's any evidence this happened. I don't believe that there is any way to prove. I don't think there's a 100% way for him to disprove it either. I think she believes her allegation. I think she is wrong. All right. I love all of you. My name is Clay Travis. If you enjoy the show, go share it with your friends. It's Outkick the Show. My name is Clay Travis. By the way, go buy my book. It's a bestseller. Should be on the New York Times list, but let's eliminate all the doubt because you know the New York Times doesn't want to put this book on the bestseller list. Republicans buy sneakers too. It's a great look at sports, politics, and why we should have some places in life where politics doesn't infect anything. Kisses. Love all of you. I'm on the over tonight in the Thursday Night Football. It's on Fox, going down between the Minnesota Vikings and the LA Rams. Hope it's a good game. Love all of you. I'll be live tomorrow morning, 6 to 9 a.m. Eastern on Fox Sports Radio. Kisses, DBAP boys and girls, but sometimes SBAP. I'll see y'all.